Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about a tool that we're going to be using throughout the course of our challenge group. It's a tool that you guys can even use outside of our challenge group, and it centers around the importance of taking responsibility for our choices and also just being more self-aware, living an empowered life. This tool that I'm about to share with you today, what's really great about it is that you can use this tool in any area of your life. So not just on your health and fitness journey, but you can also use this tool as it pertains to your career, as it pertains to your relationships. It's awesome. So why don't we dive right in? I'm going to share my screen because it's a visual tool that we're going to be using. And I will send you, I'll post it in the group and I'll send it to you guys, the screenshot of the empowerment matrix that we're going to be using so that you can either print it off and use it as a visual tool if you're more of a visual person like I am. It's really helpful to just have it on hand and know that we're going to be talking about where we fall in the empowerment matrix throughout the course of the group. So give me just a second here. Okay, so the empowerment matrix. So here on this axis, we have your connection or your why. So your why is something that I really want you to tune into, figure out what it is before we get started. I'm just gonna move this up a little bit. So what is your why? Your why is a reason, a driving force that propels you through the most difficult days of your journey. So the reason why you started this journey, and it's usually rooted in something emotional, something that tugs on your heartstrings. So for example, my why has changed since I personally started my own health and fitness journey a few years back. I will say that. That being said, my why really shifted in November of 2016 when my dad was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. I saw how hard he was fighting, and I saw just how ruthless this disease was. And I mean, it was so ruthless. It took his life in a matter of only 4 short months. And so it was through watching him suffer that I really stepped into that empowered space, which we'll talk about in just a minute, and realized, you know what, there isn't a single excuse that I could come up with. There isn't a fight that I have going on in my life right now that's in any way, shape, or form even a fraction of how difficult his fight is. So if he can fight for his life every single day, I sure as hell can fight for mine. The fight does not have to start when a doctor tells us we're sick. The fight for our lives, the fight for our health, it has to start now, because everything that we do today and every day moving forward impacts us on a cellular level. So, you know, my why stems from knowing how hard he fought. And my why stems from wanting to be able to be there for my children someday, to hold my grandbabies, which my dad won't get to do, to be there for my kids' weddings, which my dad will not be able to do, to just really be well and have my mobility and my health for, you know, as long as I possibly can, God willing. So really tune into what your why is, and I encourage you to think about a why that, like I said, is emotional, something that's going to tug on your heartstrings on those difficult days when you don't want to press play, when you don't want to follow your nutrition plan. So that's what's on this axis. On this axis, we have growth. So what is growth? Growth would be those actionable items that you can step into every single day that align with your why or your source of connection. Okay, so let's talk about the different quadrants of the empowerment matrix. Over here, we have empowered. So as it pertains to your nutrition, you're empowered when you're consistently prepping, you're following your meal plan, you're drinking your Shakeology each day, you're staying on track, and you're feeling great about it. And obviously, you know, outside of this journey, life still happens, you guys. If my life this past year has taught me anything, it has taught me that. So when there's a snafu, when there's a family emergency, or just something goes wrong, you have healthy options on hand, or you seek out healthy options instead of fast food or junk food options, the quick grab and go processed snack. Okay, you're always in that frame of mind, like something should go wrong, I have this on backup. As it pertains to your fitness, staying on track with your workout calendar, pressing play each and every single day, turning to the group and refocusing on your why when you need some motivation or some inspiration, some encouragement to get it done. And it could also look like if you're injured, because let's be real, like I said, there are those certain life circumstances that we can't always predict. Maybe you've injured yourself, you're modifying, or you're just doing what your body is able to do. You never, ever, ever want to step into this journey and push yourself so much to the point where you're injured, or you injure yourself even more if you already have an injury. Okay, so all of those things that I just mentioned, obviously you can see just from reading that there are some clear actionable items that you know, that you can step into both in your nutrition and in your fitness, and they're in alignment with your why. You know, if you don't have that source of connection, if your source of connection or your why isn't high, and your growth items that you're stepping into aren't 100% on point, you're not going to be empowered. Okay, so let's talk about those other quadrants, where else you might fall if your connection, your why isn't high and your growth isn't high. Let's move into cozy. So in this space, okay, your connection or your why might be high, might be solid, but your growth items are not where they need to be. They're low. Okay, so what would that look like? In your nutrition, you're not following your meal plan, but maybe you're eating healthy. You're like complacent with just eating healthy. You're drinking your Shakeology somewhat inconsistently. So you're like, meh, whenever I feel like it. It could also look like you're finding comfort in comfort foods on your hard days. Think about cozy. Like we like to stay within our comfort zones. That's how our brains are designed, right? Our brains are not designed really to step into empowerment. We don't really like to do things that make us uncomfortable. We like to stay within the boundaries of our comfort zones. And sometimes that's why it's so easy for people to fall back into cozy. As far as your fitness is concerned, you're just dabbling. So maybe that means you're opting to do less, fewer reps, fewer sets when you know that you can do more, or you're just not really putting your all into your workouts. You're working out inconsistently or just when you feel like it. It could also look like it's fun for you, but you're not seeing results because you're not really plugging into your form. You're not challenging yourself. You're doing it just to check it off, like it's just another thing that's on your to-do list. Another thing that sort of goes in hand with you're not challenging yourself, you might not be using heavy enough weights. So again, you're settling. So, and the thing about cozy, and also the thing about stress, which we'll talk about momentarily, is that you don't stay here long. If you choose to stay here, and it is a choice, okay, you bloop, end up right over here into bored and disengaged. So before I start talking about bored and disengaged, let's jump over to stressed, knowing that in either of these two quadrants, if you stay there too long, you're going to end up in bored and or disengaged, okay? So stressed. This is when your source of connection or your why is low and your growth items are super high. So what does that look like? With your nutrition, you're not prepping consistently. You're flying by the seat of your pants with your nutrition. You're drinking your Shakeology, and you know what you should be doing to stay on track every single day, but your why or your purpose for getting started is either fading or non-existent, and you don't have that inspiration to stay on track, and just overall your prepping is not strong. As it pertains to your fitness, this could look like a few different things. One, you're pushing yourself way too much to a point where you're injuring yourself, or you're doing like 2-3 workouts a day, which is excessive. Two, you're pushing to your point, yourself to a point where you're not able to / don't want to keep the momentum going for the duration of the week. So you're like, hustle, hustle, hustle. I can't do this. Like, it's just too much. 3, and this is a big one, you guys. So definitely be aware of this. You're comparing yourself to what, and what you're able to do to what others are doing and what others are able to do. So you start engaging in this vicious, perpetual cycle of self-sabotage. You can't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. So I want you to know, coming into this group, that everybody in this group is on their own individual journey. You know, some of them have been on this journey for a year, some of them maybe only a month, some of them might be right at the starting line, just like you. So instead of focusing on what everybody else is doing, put those blinders on, focus on laying your own bricks, one brick at a time. That's something that we'll talk a little bit more about as we move into week 1 together. But you're building your own house. Don't look at what your neighbor is doing, because it's not going to get any of your bricks laid. It's only going to be defeating, and it's like this vicious, perpetual cycle where you get no bricks laid, and your next door neighbor is working on this house, and you're just so focused on what everybody else is doing that you're not getting anything done. And then what happens? You end up over here and bored and or disengaged. So what does this look like? It's basically like, okay, I'm not prepping, not following a meal plan, not drinking my Shakeology, I'm eating junk food, which obviously doesn't lend itself to a healthy lifestyle. With your fitness, you're not plugged into a program, you're not staying active, and you're succumbing to the excuses as to why you can't. So what does that look like? You're not engaged or, you know, inspired, motivated by your program because it's not a good fit, etc. So that's when your growth items are low and your connection, or, you know, your source of connection or your why are really low. Now, what's really cool about the empowerment matrix is that, let's say you are in cozy, right? Your growth is low, your source of connection and or your why is really high. You know, okay, bloop, my growth, those actionable items that I need to be plugging into, that's what I need to change. That's where I need to see the shift. You know that when you're in stressed, you know that your growth items are high, but your source of connection or your why, the reason that's going to tug on your heartstrings on those hard days to you know, bring meaning and purpose to your journey, if that's really low, that's how you need to get back to. That's where you need to make a change. And so you're able, in using this matrix, you're able to realize, okay, I need to get back to this. I need to sit down and spend some time figuring out what needs to change here. Where am I struggling? And where do I need to dig deep? Is it on the actionable items end, or is it on, you know, the emotional, mental end of things? And when all of those things are in alignment, we're empowered. And obviously, ideally, that's where we want to be. It's also important to know that from one day to the next, you could be jumping all over the board. But obviously, we want to be empowered. And this is a really great tool that you can use to see and make those shifts in your journey as needed, okay? So your task for today, before we get started in week 1, is number 1, to figure out what is your why. Write that thing down. Write down your why. And I mean write it down. I don't mean like type it down. I don't mean like just plug it into your notes on your phone. You want to do that? That's fine. That's great. but write it down. There's something that happens in the brain when you pick up a pen and a piece of paper and you write down, this is why I'm doing this. You can even find an image or something that you associate with your why and stick a picture below your handwritten why and just put it where you're going to see it every single morning. I promise you that when you have that source of connection and you know what you need to do, everything's going to fall into alignment. You have all the tools that you need in your toolbox to really just bloom, to grow. But it's a choice. It is a choice. It's a choice to live your life in an empowered fashion. A lot of that also stems from the language that you choose to use with yourself. Powerless language sounds like I can't. It's too hard. I don't know. A sneaky one is I'll try. I'll try is like, I'll cover all my bases because if I don't follow through on those actionable items that I said I was going to follow through on, at least I said that I tried. But all of that is powerless language. You got to flip your script. I choose to. I will. I can. I am. There are very few things that we have control over in this life, you guys. So in recognizing that, this is something you have control over, that's something worth celebrating. It really is, because you have the opportunity to really just grow in all areas of your life when you are taking care of your mind, body, and spirit. And that's what this journey is all about. It's about holistic wellness, mind, body, spirit, okay? So if you have questions about this, by all means reach out, but definitely do comment below and just let us know, where are you feeling like you're at today? Where are you excited to be? And we're going to be talking more about our whys. We're going to be circling back to our whys every single day. We're going to be talking about and checking in on where we're at in the empowerment matrix throughout the course of our journey together. So become familiar with it, utilize it as a tool that's in your toolbox, and get excited.